I have a saying, it's like, I want what all chefs want. I just want it more.
Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, André Natera. Today's guest is Chef Jason Dady, James Beard Foundation Award semifinalist, Chef of the Year by San Antonio Culture Map, and founder of the Jason Dady Restaurant Group. Jason's been featured on Iron Chef Gauntlet and Beat Bobby Flay. We're covering his ambitious new 25,000 square foot Mexico Ceaty project, how he runs a business, and scaling from chef operator to CEO. Stay tuned.
So we're in the markets in Oaxaca, right? Walking through and looking at all the different chili peppers and crickets and pulque, and we're with a guide. And he's like, you got to try this drink. And
What you said, Oaxaca?
Oaxaca market, yeah. It's the second biggest market in the world as far as food markets. This is the craziest thing that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it's like as far as you can see, you turn the corner. As far as you can see, and it's everything from their Home Depot to their kitchen to their, and you get every little individual pieces of food from different vendors, right? So you get the cheese from here, you get the tortillas from here, you get the peppers from here, and then you take them to the one guy that's doing all the dried meat. He's grilling it and making you like this little quick taco. But there's one particular drink. So they're like, you have to try this drink. I'm like, we look at it. It's basically this huge vat of chocolate water with ice cubes floating in it. And what looks, I mean, it honestly looks like ground up styrofoam. And we're like, no, we're good. And they're like, no, you have to try it. You have to try it. We're like, nah, we're good. You know, and they're like, you have to try it. We're like, okay. So you take a little shot back. And
When you say it's chocolate water, is it flavored like chocolate?
I think it's literally like Mexican cocoa and water with ice. It's almost like a cold chocolate milk. At least that's what it looked like to me. And I think that's what it tasted like, because it was just one of those things that, like, I think the human body always tells you, like, you shouldn't do this. It's like you have to trust your body in that instant.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be respectful, so we tried it. And certainly came home. And listen, it was the best trip ever. I mean, we ate unbelievably great food all throughout Oaxaca. But when we got home, we definitely had
Montezuma's Revenge?
a little. Not even that. Honestly, I never got that type of food poisoning, but I certainly had, I'm pretty sure, a parasite, because it was like a 2-week process to get back to normal. It wasn't just like, oh, food poisoning. It was like something going on with my system. And so I started looking it up online. I'm like, yeah, that's probably the first time I can self-diagnose a parasite.
Yeah. Wow.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So why were you there? Because you're tell us about the big project that you're, and how does all this tie in?
Yeah, I mean, I just opened a new project called Mexico Ceaty, right? At the end of the day, it's a 25,000 square foot story of the food, the people, the art, and the cuisine of San Antonio and Mexico. Everything from street tacos to bakery to quesadillas and fajitas, right? It's like thinking about Tex-Mex and what that means to the Mexican food culture of Texas. So, I mean, I've been traveling to Mexico my whole career. I mean, I'm in San Antonio, so it's, in my opinion, the best place to travel from San Antonio, whether that's going to Guadalajara or going to Monterrey or going to the wine country and going to see the amazing wines of Mexico right now, or then going to Oaxaca or going to Mexico City or going to San Miguel or going to the Yucatan. It's like, for whatever reason, it's just always been a passion of mine. I love the food there. And I think as a chef, anytime you love the food of somewhere that you travel, you start to cook it and you are inspired by it and you want to learn more about it. So whether that's going to the Yucatan and having sickle pock for the first time and being like, what is this? I don't understand. And it's like, oh,
it's like hummus.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. Like, I'm like, it's like a Mexican hummus made with pumpkin seeds, right? And roasted habanero, and it's got this great depth of flavor with the chilies. It's spicy, but it's sweet and it's nutty. So I think as a chef, you're always inspired by the food when you travel.
So how did this idea begin? Like, because this is an ambitious project.
Yeah, for sure. It's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, like what are you thinking when you're like, I think I could do that?
Well, I thought I could do it. I'm in the process of trying to see if I can do it. That's for sure.
Fair enough.
I mean, very loosely, I think I went to Eataly for the first time in New York probably 15, 14 years ago. And I remember writing it down in a journal when I got back of being like, why can't the food of Mexico be the same thing of what Eataly is? Of one country's culture and food, but the different aspects of what makes it special from every ounce of the border, right? Mm-hmm. And I just, as a chef, we have these journals, right? And I just wrote it down in a journal, Mexico Ceaty, and it would have a tortilla station, it would have street tacos, it would have a frutería, it'd have a panaderia, it'd have a big bar, it had all these things that were kind of based off of what I thought made Eataly a really cool place to visit. Mm-hmm. Never thought anything after that, right? I mean, at what scale am I looking at a 25,000 square foot location? small business owner with my wife and my brother. And, we kind of bootstrapped these concepts together for 25 years of taking over second generation spots or trying to open niches that we felt like maybe San Antonio was missing at the time. And I got approached 4 years ago by the mall owners, and they said, "Hey, we hear you're the guy, and we want to redo our food court. But we're looking at one person to do it." And at the time, and still today, I have multiple different concepts, right? So whether that's barbecue, or whether that's umami and modern Asian, or whether that's Italian pizzeria, and in their mind, I think they were like, "Oh, well, we'll have one chef, and he'll do 10 different kiosks, and it'll be." So they just wanted to deal with one person. I said, "Well, actually, I have this idea that I wrote down 14 years ago. Can I share it with you?" They're like, "Oh man, we'd love to hear it." And pitched them on it, and their response was, "quote unquote, that's fucking genius." And to see their initial immediate excitement behind it, I was like, "All right, this is a go, right? Can we figure this out?" We were not prepared for how long it takes to negotiate a lease that's that big, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it took almost 18 months to negotiate the lease.
So could we pause there for a second? What's so difficult about negotiating a lease like that?
Gotcha.
As opposed to just regular restaurant leases?
So I think the biggest difference of negotiating a lease like this is it's 25,000 square foot. And so it's a 15-year lease. You got to make sure that you are really dialed in. You have to understand what the landlord really means. I mean, these guys are huge national retailers, right? They're not looking for a little 3,600 square foot lease. It is very complicated, chilled water systems, all this type of things that even for me operating restaurants for 25 years, I had no idea on some of these this part of the lease. And so it took a long time for us. And my wife is notorious for reading every line on every paragraph on every section, point 62.92A. And me just being the chef and me is "Yeah, that looks good. Well, I don't see anything." And she's like, "No, we got to ask about this. We got to negotiate that." And so, there was definitely a significant amount of negotiation that went on in order to do that. Then it comes to the money, right? Mm-hmm. Coming out of COVID, who's loaning restaurants money to open restaurants, let alone a 25,000 square foot property that's insane. Yeah. It was hard, right? And so we get to the very end, we're about to sign the lease, and our bank at the time pulls out from underneath us, just yanks the rug. I mean, the week of. I mean, whoa. We've been negotiating this thing for 18 months, and they just got cold feet and just basically were like, "Yeah, we're really sorry." I'm like, "Yeah, really sorry doesn't do fucking shit for somebody that's..."
So does that mean at that point, because we know we're here now, but at that point, is the deal dead in your mind?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We were like, there was no way we would be able to, from the landlord's perspective, they're sitting on this property and they're like, "We got to move, man. I mean, this is a prime part of real estate." I would make the arguments, one of, if not the most important pieces of restaurant, bar, real estate in San Antonio. I mean, we are at the heart of the river, right next to the Alamo. We have guaranteed foot count. I mean, it's a very prolific place. It's got a lot of history behind it too. So, but yeah, it was definitely dead in the water. So I called a friend of mine and said, "Hey, do you know any bankers that'd be willing to talk?" He's like, "I know this guy. You should go talk to him." Immediately, they were like, "We love this idea. This is great. But how is this going to work, right?" And it's a bank out of Houston, very small bank. I mean, they are a small bank, and they specialize in small business lending, so, which was great. And they're from Morocco, originally the family that owns it is from Morocco. And so they came to San Antonio, and I cooked them dinner, and I did lamb shanks for them. And it was basically that night they were like, "We don't know what you just did to those lamb shanks. We've never had lamb shanks like that. They're the best lamb shanks we've ever had." Every time I see them, they still are talking about these lamb shanks from 3 years ago, right? So these guys came in and did the deal and really saved it. And I've got a ton of appreciation and respect for them because they had the faith, And I think the thing that I always tell young chefs, when you're at that verge of wanting to break out and do your own restaurant, yes, you have to have a great business plan. Yeah, but you got to sell people. It's you versus them across the table, and this is a people business. It's a people business for them. It's a people business for us.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to sell yourself to them with straight passion. Mm-hmm. And I think that they felt that what we had put together and our passion behind it was something that they felt a lot of confidence with.
Straight passion, but also it's the relationship business. It's who you know, who knows you, what doors are opening.
Right.
Can you make shit happen when you need to make shit happen? So much of that goes into being an entrepreneur, being a chef, that the line cook's not thinking about.
Right.
Right. And I want to get into that in a moment. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a little bit more about Mexico Ceaty.
Okay.
How many? So 9 restaurants?
9 different options. So there's Tres Arcos, which is a sit-down Tex-Mex restaurant. Dos Cantinas is a 300-seat bar overlooking the Riverwalk, like right down the chute of the Riverwalk where the Laguna is. Then we've got 5 kiosks in the middle of the floor, in the plaza, if you will. The cevicheria, doing different styles of ceviches, campechanas, aguachile, tuna tostadas from Mexico City. And then we've got the fruteria, doing paletas, aguas frescas, and fruit cups. You've got the tortilla station, doing basically fresh masa programs. So we're with Hacienda, 6 different heirloom corns that we're grinding in house, and really trying to tell the story of corn and chilies as far as what the core of Mexican food is really all about. But it's a really neat kind of interactive station. Right.
Yeah.
100%.
For people that don't know what that is, can you explain that?
The milpa would be basically the idea of the corn and the mill and the nishmali of the lime and making the fresh corn, and then the people that do that behind it, right? And so we're working with a local tortilla group, Colonial, that's been in San Antonio for 80 plus years, making it for kind of our everyday corn, and then we're able to do our own corn in-house every day as well, and flour tortillas, and which is such a San Antonio thing of, the classic San Antonio breakfast taco with fresh flour tortillas is amazing. We've got the Baja Burrito Station, kind of taking the idea of, rice bowl, torta, or burritos. What do you want in it? What rice do you want in it? What protein do you want in it? What's your garnish? Wrap it up and you walk away. Which, even with this project, has been the most popular station by far, because it's comfortable and it's what people are accustomed to, especially quote unquote in a food court of a mall, right?
Yeah.
Then we have the taco station, doing guisados, asada, pastor, chicharron, chicken verde.
You're saying all this, I'm like, man, I'm hungry.
And
Skip
then
lunch.
we've got the panaderia. Our baker, Stephanie Byers, is from Mexico City. She's one of the UNESCO ambassadors for the city of San Antonio as a city of gastronomy. Just crushing. I mean, her stuff is just amazing, which is great. And it's a coffee shop, so it gets that kind of aspect in the early morning. I mean, we're right next to the convention center. We're right next to, 3,000 hotel rooms within 3 blocks of us. So it's like kind of that coffee morning spot with breakfast tacos as well.
Sorry, I want to interrupt, because as you're saying all this, my wheels are turning, and I'm thinking, you have to scale this operation. So there's this one thing, like you have the idea, and then there's this other thing when it comes to reality. It's like you got to fill all these positions,
Right.
And not only do you got to hire all these people with a lot of different skill sets, unique skill sets, like the panaderia, like you talked about. Like someone needs to know how to make that
100%.
bread properly. So 2-part question: when you're looking at scaling something like this, what sort of systems do you say these are non-negotiable systems that need to be in place for me to scale this, number one? And then what's your recruitment tactic to hire that many people, to open on time, and to make sure that you're getting the right level of talent that you need to make sure that it represents you and your brand well?
30 years in the kitchen, 7 books, 200 podcast episodes, all distilled into a 5-minute daily leadership practice. It's called Lead Like a Chef. Most people who get promoted quit the industry within 2 years, not because they can't cook, but because no one taught them how to lead. I built an app that does. Lead Like a Chef. Take the free 2-minute quiz that tells you exactly where you stand. Go to studio.com/André. Link is in the show notes.
That's the $1 million question, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's by far been the most difficult part of the whole process. I mean, we onboarded 196 employees in 1 week, which is crazy. I mean, and so a lot in the rear view mirror, which I typically am not a rear view mirror kind of guy. I always tell my team, is like, I'm not in the problem business, I'm in the solution business. But there's certainly a lot of things I wish we would have done a little bit differently. As far as the recruitment side, it ended up being a lot easier than I'd anticipated. I was kind of worried about it. I mean, you kind of hear the stories, especially, listen, man, we're down on the river, right? So it's not like there's no free parking. They're having to park and walk or bus and walk. But what we did, and a technique that really worked well for us, which is something we hadn't done in the past, because we kind of did like an open, like a job fair, the first one. And it was okay. I think we hired like 35 people, and we're like, we knew 200 was about our magic number. And we hired like 30. I'm like, 30's not 200 guys. Like, we've got to kind of figure some other things out. So we worked with our marketing team, and basically what we did is we created, nice little social media posts, right? Hiring for each position specifically, right? So it'd be like one post would be bakers, and the next one would be line cooks, and another would be servers.
And are you running like promotional ads?
And then just
put
the promotional ads behind it, and it really just went bonkers. I mean, we were getting inundated with. I mean, every day, no matter what time I'd pull up my email, and I'd have 5 to 10 people for all the different positions. So then we would just forward them on to the hiring team to be like, here you go, here you go, here you go.
One of my friends, he's a chef. He does pop-ups and things like that, and he was asking me for advice, like how do I get people to know about my pop-up? And so this was the strategy, and it's been used. So maybe you could use it again. Maybe you can't because I'm saying it. But what I told him to do, I said, do like post that you're doing a pop-up, and then like 5 minutes later, say you're sold out. And just put up random pictures of how fun it was. Right. And then do it again next week. Say, I'm doing another, and then say you're sold out again immediately. And then tease it, and then just put a paid ad behind it, and target your
a smart way to do it.
Your audience, and be like, hey, try and get in early, get on the waiting list, so you can at least see if there's demand. But yeah, those targeted ads, like you gotta. I mean, people got to learn how to play a little bit of the bullshit game sometimes to get the attention. And in today's world where everyone's fighting for that attention, we're all fighting for the same resources, cooks and good management. You gotta have some sort of tactics up your sleeve. So I've had that one for like 3 years that I've kept quiet, so I can share it now.
No, I think it's a great idea, and it was incredibly powerful. And we were like, wow, why don't we do? In fact, we were in a meeting this week, and one of the other managers from our other restaurants was like, hey, can I do one of those paid ads? Because I need some people. We're like, absolutely. Like, if that's the new technique that works for us, let's keep using that as a way to get staff in the door. Because at the end of the day, your staff is on social media every day. Probably too much, just like
probably
the rest of us.
too much. Yeah.
So it went very, very well. As far as the management team,
how soon do you have your management team in before when you're starting to do all the R&D for all this? Like how far out are you?
I would say 30% of the menu was already done and recipe'd out, and the two part of your question was like, how do you scale that way, right? It's all about SOPs and recipes down to the gram.
So for your restaurant group, are there SOPs that are the same across all
more or less
businesses, or some just unique to the store?
I would say more or less. I believe also though too, and like we did hire a great team. Which is, by the way, doesn't matter. You still go through transition in the first couple of weeks anyways, right? Some people work out, some people don't. Some people that you thought weren't going to be great turn out to be superstars. Some people that you think are going to be great, you're like, okay, how are we going to manage this? Which is part of the employment game every day of our lives.
Speed dating.
But the SOPs of recipes down to the gram is the number one thing I think that young chefs can lean into, because I know that's probably my biggest regret. I always think it's silly when people are like, I don't have any regrets in my career. I'm like, well, then you didn't take enough chances, or, it's like you got to get out there and put yourself on the line. But like, I would guess the first 10 years of our career, when we were, 7-course tasting menu and the menu changed every day, we didn't recipe shit. No, we were just flying by the seat of our pants and having a blast doing it, and like, oh, what can we get? What's fresh? What can we do? And just, that mentality. But man, there's so many times where people would be like, oh man, I had this dish at that, and I'm like, I couldn't even. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I wish that I would have taken more time early in my career to really recipe things out down to the gram, so that you always have them.
You bring up something interesting. A lot of times when we're young cooks, and then we eventually become old cooks and old chefs, right? And there's a certain way that we progress our careers. We all start out a line cook, then we move into sous chef, ideally, chef, owner, and in every stage of that progression throughout someone's career, it looks a little bit different, and there's key learnings that will either propel you to the next position, or if you don't learn it, you're going to stay stuck in that position. How many people do you know that's like, I was thinking about this when I was driving over here, so knowing I was going to talk to you. I was thinking, it's very difficult to have friendships and relationships with people because we were line cooks together 20 years ago, but they're still line cooks.
Right.
And I'm not there mentally anymore.
Right.
Or even we were sous chefs together, whatever position. And some people, they have grown tremendously in their career, and other people have stayed where they're at. Maybe they resent me because oh, I was a better line cook than you.
Right.
Why are you successful?
Right.
Or whatever. But, and I know that's kind of a loaded question and there's some ramblings in there, but I think you know what I'm trying to ask. Like what are some of those hurdles that people go through in those stages in their career?
I have a saying, it's like, I want what all chefs want. I just want it more. And I just think that's always been my mentality. So I think that what happens is like you have to understand that, like, because I think you bring up a great point. It's like the line cooks that I grew up with in San Francisco, we were never friends. I mean, we were all like, all of us were like going after each other's throat in a great way, in a team way, but we weren't there to be anybody's buddy. We were there to be like, I'm going to be a better cook, I'm going to be a better chef, or be a better, as the sous chefs, my sous chefs at the time, were great guys, but they didn't give two shits about our career either. They were kind of like, whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? It's like, yeah, you I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about my own career here. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult because you want to have teamwork, you want to have this camaraderie, you want to bring people together. But at the end of the day, everybody, and especially in restaurants, in a weird way, every cook's like going for the same sous chef position, right? And only one's going to get it. And there is always a resentment when the one person gets it. Like, and we've learned that lesson 8 billion times the wrong way. So like in our restaurant group now, because we have that luxury of cross-promoting from restaurant to restaurant, we don't promote sous chefs in the same restaurant. Once you're ready to be promoted to be sous chef, we're moving you to a new restaurant so that you don't have to deal with the guy that you were going out drinking with the night before and smoking a cigarette out back, and then all of a sudden you're now having to hold them accountable for not doing it. Mm-hmm. It's just not a good system. It's a difficult system. And so, but at the end of the day, the cream's always going to rise to the top, right? At the end, and I don't care if somebody's the best line cook. I care about, like, are they wanting to learn? Like, are you a sponge? Like, I'm always like, man, the chefs they're going to be great that are the ones that are like, hey, chef, like, can I come in and watch you guys do inventory? Or, I want to learn how to, because that, they're thinking through the next step. They're not just thinking, oh, I'm going to cook this steak better than you, and that's going to make me a better chef.
I'll come do inventory with you when you pay me to do it.
Yeah.
They're not paying me to do inventory. Why would I go learn?
Well, and that's the difference and listen, I think that's a very, like, the grayest area in our whole entire industry right now is the whole, like, people arguing about stages, right? And the social economic argument of that, which probably gets political, and we're not talking politics, but I think it is something that, I know that I learned a lot from staging. Mm-hmm. Did I have maybe other opportunities because of that? Maybe, but I also worked 6 to 7 days a week, all day, every day, because I'm like, I'm coming in on my day off. I want to learn, because I felt like I had a very small learning timeline. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to, like, not ever wanting to be a 40-year-old line cook, right? Or being a 40-year-old sous chef, right? It's like, I believe that when you put the effort in this business, those opportunities are always there for you. There's always restaurants looking for quality, talented, responsible, respectful people. It's the ones that, how much are you willing to put into it, right? And it's like, we all had line cooks that are, chef, look what I did. Chef, look what I did. Hey, here's this special. I'm like, man, I just need you to get your parsley right? You need to nail parsley.
Yeah.
And once you nail parsley, then you nail this. And once you nail this, then you nail this. And now you're to a point where, all right, let's talk about a special. I think there's just a lot of skipping over the steps in today's culinary world, mm-hmm. which is shocking because there's so much information at their fingertips that, there's not a day that goes by that I'm probably not using AI to ask a question culinary-wise, or, hey, walk me through this, or what's the time on this, or, mm-hmm. We're trying to always find those little small efficiencies of being like, all right, for this protein, what's the fastest, most efficient way to use a combi oven for this particular thing? Because versus going in there and trying to learn it 4 times in a row, use the technology that's there to get you an answer, mm-hmm. or shorten the answer, I guess.
The stage conversation is complex, and I honestly, I don't want to get into it because it is. I need to do like 2 hours on it.
Yeah.
With people that have differing opinions. But what I will say when it comes to stages, and I want to go on record and say, hey, look, when it comes to stages, exploiting people for labor is one thing. Learning is something
Correct.
completely different. And I think for the person that's looking to move up and grow in their career, I'm a very self-didactic learner. I will learn things on my own. And whether that's me picking up a book, whether that's me, getting lost on YouTube or TV, or going to the library, or going to another chef and asking questions. And the reason I bring that up is because it is self-driven. Because in the culinary world, and really in the entire world, it's not a something for nothing game. You have to learn it at some point.
Right.
So you could either learn it now, or you could learn it later, but you're going to have to learn it at some point. And it's better that you learn it under your own volition than being thrown in and saying, okay, now you got to figure it out,
Right.
because now your job's on the line.
Right.
And if you don't know it, you better figure it out, because you're no longer in a position. And I'm talking about like when you get into the exec sous, exec chef,
Right.
chef operator. Like if you don't know those things, because you didn't learn it at some point in your career, you're going to find out really quick, and you're going to get exposed really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way of putting it. And what I always tell young cooks is like, you have to look at your career as a pie chart. And like, if you've been cooking for say 2 or 3 years, probably 80% of your pie chart is full, right? You know how to sear, you know how to braise, you know how to season, you know how to do all the cooking techniques. But in order to become full circle, what's that little 20% piece of pie that you have yet to learn or master? Is that labor? Is that, you keep hearing me go back to like the business side of it. And I think young cooks would be better off if they took a business approach to their career versus like, oh, I just want to learn how to cook, right? Because there's a lot of people in the world that know how to cook. There's not nearly as many that know how to think of it from a business perspective. And I think when you're young, you think of like, oh, they only care about profit. Oh, it's always about profit. I'm like, if you don't have profit, you have a loss. If you have a loss, you don't have a restaurant. If you don't have a restaurant, you don't have a job. Like it's okay, and you should be like happy to make and work for a profitable business, right? That's how you grow. That's how the entire team grows. It's not just one person.
Yeah, when the business grows, opportunities grow.
Correct.
Right. So, that's a tough thing for people to make the switch. And the other thing is like so there's the skill set of learning how to cook, which is important, right? It's the gatekeeper for any position up. Like you're not going to go to sous chef if you don't know how to cook, right? But there's the ability to cook and then transfer that cooking knowledge. So not only do you know how to cook, but you need to know how to teach other people how to cook. And sometimes you're your worst enemy because everything has to go through these two hands versus let me teach you how to do it so I could work on the other things. You've seen this as well. The sous chef that gets promoted and still has to do everything and they fail and they can't ever get beyond sous chef. They're phenomenal cooks, but they're phenomenal cooks. They're not phenomenal leaders.
The moment you became sous chef, the rules changed. You can't drink with the crew anymore. You can't look the other way anymore. You can't be liked and respected at the same time. Caesar's not above the law, and neither are you. The Sous Chef Blueprint, the manual that nobody handed you when you got promoted. Get it at chefspsa.com.
I had a conversation literally yesterday with a sous chef that has worked in kind of one of our fast casual places for the last year. And we promoted him and moved him down to Mexico Ceaty. And had a conversation with him, and I was like, how are you feeling? He's like, I'm not as comfortable telling these guys what to do as I was with my guys, And I was like, that's okay. He's like, what advice do you have? And I was like, fake it till you make it. Like, they don't know you don't. They have no idea what your insecurity is. None. They don't know that you might not know X, Y, or Z because you're kind of have been moved down here and you may be learning this new thing. I was like, you just have to fake it till you make it. It was like, and he's like, I just don't know if I can do that. I'm like, it's a lot easier than you think, and the faster you start doing it, the much easier your life's gonna be, right?
That's great advice.
So there is no magic button but you have to be able to just push yourself. That it's like Danny Meyer's famous like constant gentle pressure, right? You have to apply that same constant gentle pressure to yourself and the things that make you uncomfortable in order to grow, to get better, learn more skills so that you can continue to, jump up those ladders.
What was the transition for you going from head chef to chef owner?
I graduated from Texas Tech in the restaurant hotel program. Moved to San Francisco, went to culinary school in San Francisco. I had never cooked professionally. I mean, I was more of just like a home cook, right? I had passion for it and whatever that means. I was the home ec student of the year my senior year in high school, which was probably
That's a big deal.
was the most embarrassing thing. I remember being in I was literally in the auditorium.
All the girls loved you.
And they're like, home ec student of the year, Jason Dady. I was like, what? I was like slid down in my chair. I was so embarrassed. And because I never knew that was a career. Like I never put that together, right? Go to Texas Tech. I was in PR and mass communications as my initial kind of, this is what I'm going to do. Immediately realized I had no passion for it to drive. Went and talked to a counselor. They said, what do you like to do? I said, I work in restaurants. I love it. They're like, oh, well, we have a restaurant program. I was like, oh, that's a career? Like you can get a degree in that? And then decided to go to culinary school after that because I did have a love for cooking. And I felt like, well, if I'm going to open my own restaurant one day, I don't want to just know how to run the front of house. I want to run the back of house. I had opened 3 restaurants from the time I was 18 years old until the time I was basically my first year in culinary school in San Francisco. So I opened CJ's Clubhouse Grill, shout out Capel, which was a little neighborhood bar grill that I opened as an 18-year-old kid as a server. And then I went to Lubbock and I got a job at Joe's Crab Shack when they were opening, which was the best learning opportunity ever, right? It gave me chain restaurant experience of SOPs and the way things work and the total beatdown of what you can expect from a restaurant like that in early 2000, right?
Yeah.
Or the late 90s.
And by the way, for people that are listening, I think in the early 2000s and the late 90s, a lot of people coming out of culinary school and culinarians were going into that route.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those restaurants, the fine dining chef creative scene was not what it is then.
It was just kicking off in 97, 98, 99. And then I'd go to San Francisco and Stars Bar and Dining was reconcepting back as Stars Bar and Dining. But which I had no idea. I had no idea of the prolific history of Stars with Jeremiah Tower or whatever. It was right down the school right down the street from the school. I walked in. I had been running a team. By the time I left Lubbock, I was assistant general manager at Joe's Crab Shack, $4 million a year restaurant. So I had a lot of experience. I had a staff of 60. So I knew how to interview, right? I went to the interview, sat down across the table from their chef de cuisine. His name was Morgan. And I was like, listen, man, I don't know shit. I don't know how to cook. I'll be the first one here. I'll be the last one to leave. And whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. And I got hired on the line. And 2 of my classmates who had been cooking for 3-4 years were basically on pantry, right? And it's always that hierarchy of why are you on hotline? I'm on pantry. You don't know shit. I'm like, I just know how to interview better than y'all, you know? And then I threw myself into the fire. I was like, well, I better learn how to do this very, very quickly. And it was cutthroat. It was hardcore. But so I went from San Francisco going back to this puzzle, right? My pie chart. I didn't have the financial side to open my own restaurant. I had no idea. So I took a job with Riata Restaurants out of Fort Worth as assistant general manager because, again, I was...
Riata, I remember that. What was the guy's name?
Grady Spears.
Grady Spears. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
He was the old school one, the OG.
Yeah.
And then, but it was a financial position.
Yeah.
So I went to go work for that because that was the piece of my puzzle that was missing. So I spent about 6 months with them kind of doing the finances and then decided, my wife and I decided, we just didn't like living back in Dallas, Fort Worth. That's where I went to high school. And we were just came down to visit San Antonio. Her parents had just moved down here. And we were like, wow, this is a really cool city. We really like it. And packed up, moved down here with literally a pipe dream. My wife got a job at USAA. In email marketing because she was coming back from San Francisco working for .coms and wrote a small business plan and got a small business loan and opened the lodge in October of 2001. So I kind of went from quote unquote college to culinary school, but working at really nice restaurants. I already had the management side. Yeah. And then when we opened our first restaurant, I never really had a chef job before I opened my first restaurant. I never really worked in a kitchen as a sous chef or an executive chef.
So you're learning.
Yeah, but I had opened 3 places, so I knew what it was like to open a restaurant. I knew how to do that. I knew the effort, I knew the time, I knew to think through every little thing because I would go in on all these projects and be like, what can I do? Because I was always looking at my puzzle. I had my own puzzle. It didn't matter who else I was around. I was like, this is the puzzle I need to do so that I learn this, I learn this, I learn this, I learn that. And then opened October 16th, 2001. And I guess the rest is history, but it was There's a lot of struggles,
Day to day now, how often are you switching hats between chef and owner operator, or are you wearing them both at the same time all the time?
This project's a little bit different, right? I mean, I would say I kind of make the joke. I'm like, I've had it really good for like the last 5 years. It's like, hey, let's open a new concept. Cool. All right, let's recipe test. All right. And then, build a team, inspire a team, lead a team, and then be able to like, go home at 7:00 and be like, all right, guys, chef's going home. So right now it's probably 60-40, 60 CEO, 40 chef. The last 5 years, it's probably been like 80-20. I'm definitely more CEO at this point. With the opening of Mexico Ceaty, I now have 450 employees, right? So as much as I think that's the biggest tug-of-war struggle with all chefs. I think about it constantly because I'm always thinking about like, all right, who are the chefs I still look up to or are inspired by? And it's probably more of like the old school hats, right? The guys that like have multiple concepts. And I'm like, all right, how are they doing it? What are they doing? How are they finding their work-life balance? Are they in the kitchens at all? But it's such a different world, right? Yeah. It's like, I mean, the amount of TV I've done in the last 2 weeks has been crazy, right? Because everybody wants to talk about our project out the rock with the Spurs doing well. Go Spurs, go. And then with Mexico Ceaty and the buildup of that, it's like, I think on, a couple days ago, I did 3 spots in one day, right? So, and everybody's like, man, you were all over TV today. So it's like, which is a completely different hat to wear, which is marketing and PR, right? And so, but being able to still put on the chef coat every day and inspire the team, I have to still wear both. I don't think you ever can take them. Like, it's not like I won't ever not be a chef. How could I?
But you're not the first person they call when they say, hey, we have a call off.
Correct.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Although my brother texted me this morning and he's like, I'm on burrito station. We had a call off. And that's just what we're dealing with.
The saute guy at restaurant number 3 didn't show up. Can you work? You're not getting those calls.
But you have to lean into building teams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about leadership and growth is that, and scaling, it's like, it's nothing without a team.
If you were looking at young culinarians, young chefs, young entrepreneurs, they're opening their first restaurant, it's a struggle. Profit margins are super thin. Sometimes you're not taking a paycheck because you want to make sure everyone else gets paid. Right. And sometimes everyone's check's bouncing. And a lot of people struggle and they think that once you open up your first restaurant, you're going to be financially secure.
Right.
That's probably not the case.
I would say it's far from the case normally.
Yeah. At what point do you start to become financially secure as a chef now that you have multiple concepts?
I would say that I was probably not the highest paid person in our entire company until I was probably in year 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Now I had my first 2 restaurants were doing great here. You get cocky, third one, crash and burn, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're like, oh, okay, that really sucked. Like, we just lost a lot of money. The key is this. It's understanding that, and this is what I try to preach to our team all the time. Every day I walk in, I just see dollar signs. I don't look at it as a fork or a knife or a glass or a rug or kitchen towels. I mean, talk about like one of your greatest profit killers in a restaurant are towels, right? Because those things are cheap. I mean, they're not cheap. They're expensive. And so, and if a line cook goes and grabs 8 and just half-ass uses them and doesn't do an 8 towel fold and little things like that, they'd be like, hey, you got to fold this way and this way. That gives you 8 clean sides. So throughout the shift, you have a clean side every 20, 30 minutes versus just being like, hey, here's there's a towel. I'll use that. And then one-time use and go away. Right, so, right. In order to be profitable, you have to be hardcore and upfront and honest about profitability, right? And it's like, okay, where does all the money go away in profitability? Food costs at this point in time, in my opinion, is pretty achievable, right? I mean, based off of your concept, if you're smart about what you're buying and not having a lot of loss, I don't think there's a lot of theft in kitchens. Like, I just don't believe in that. I think that most people come in there are good people and are there to work, but it's labor, right? And it's all the little other amenities like we're talking about kitchen mats, kitchen towels, kitchen aprons, all the things that people are just half-ass using and not getting maximum value out of. That's where your margin is. And that's why everybody says, like, you're talking about the 3 cents on the dollar, that the 3 to 5%. You know, it's like what happens is when people have conversations about profitability in restaurants, they're talking about they're always comparing apples and oranges, right? It's like, oh, well, your final margin should be 18%. Like, I remember talking to a sushi chef one time, and he was like, all I care about is selling hamachi nigiri. He's like, because my food cost is 18%. He's like, I want to be the number one seller of hamachi nigiri because I know that that's my margin that's going to make a difference at the end of the month, because if I'm doing Toro or something like that, and that food cost is going up. And so for him, he was very cognizant and conscious of like, what were my profit margin winners versus my profit margin losses, and understanding that everything has a dollar. You know, it's like there's nothing that's worse than like the worst sound in the world is like a tray of glasses breaking.
Yeah.
But the really worst part about that is the people laughing after it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like accidents happen.
Yeah.
But what's funny about that? Because that's real money that you're never getting back, right? So if it's 5 glasses and those are $8 a pop, you just literally wadded up $40 and threw in the trash. There's nothing funny about that to me, right? Like, I don't find it funny when it happens at somebody else's restaurant, and I certainly don't find it funny when it happens in mine. So the profit margin comes when you get disciplined enough to understand that every single thing you do and buy makes a difference if you're going to make it or break it.
But for the individual entrepreneur, at what point do you feel like now I'm financially stable, like my salary is enough to live on?
Right.
Is it after 2 restaurants? Is it after 3? And then and I'm assuming the type of restaurant is also important, because I'm
100%.
sure a steakhouse is much different than a tasting menu restaurant.
Man, it's such a hard question. I do think that there's a lot of chefs that are independent operators that run really tight, lean ships, and it's just them and their restaurant, and they're making a good living. Now, they don't have any balance. So, I mean, it's a hard question, because you got to balance profitability and happiness, right? It's like, sure. I would say for me, it probably wasn't until I started going more fast casual. Like, I'm kind of like hyper obsessed with fast casual concepts, because that's what the market's telling you people want.
Right.
And so when I opened a Trey Pizzeria and Two Bros Barbecue that were kind of more counter service, keep the labor down, the margins went up for sure, right? I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm out of the brick and mortar four-wall restaurant of 150 to 200 seats. And then people laugh at me because they're like, they know I'm talking to somebody about one or whatever. It's like, but in my mind, I keep telling myself that, right? It's like, but that's the passion, right? That's like, well, that's what I love to do. I love building things. I love building this concept and cooking this food and building this team. But then you get into the everyday operation of it. It's a little bit of a beatdown. But I would say, listen, I think for some chefs, it's going to be one restaurant. I think once I got into fast casual and basically diversified my portfolio, because that's the way I looked at it, it's like when my barbecue restaurant is slow, my steakhouse is busy because of the time of the year, right? Whether it's the holidays or it's the summertime. When the steakhouse is slow, it's in the summer. Barbecue's crushing because all the kids are out of town, and it's families, and it's get-togethers, and it's this. But I would say probably the magic numbers after restaurant number 3 is probably about the time that you start to see margins that you're like, okay, I feel comfortable and confident.
Yeah.
But then, like, you get in the questions like, what kind of car are you going to drive? Right? Like, I tell every young cook, what kind of car you want to drive? That's the first interview question I'll ask people. What kind of car you want to drive?
Want to drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your dream car? What do you want to drive? When you feel successful, what's the car you want to drive? Right? And it's always, oh man, I want a Porsche. All right, what are you doing to get the Porsche? Because what I see is somebody that isn't going to buy a Porsche, right? You're calling out sick, you don't come in on time, you don't do this. And so I think it's important for, like, especially when I do these conversations with this high school kids. I do a lot with local high school kids in San Antonio, with culinary kids. I was like, what kind of car you want to drive? And then what are you doing to get that car? Because that's a tangible thing that somebody can relate to. It's like, what do you want to do with your life? Nobody can answer that question. I still ask myself that all the time. What do I want to do with my life? I don't know. You know, like,
I'm not even sure if I'm real.
See, now that's funny. No, that's my kind of talk right there. And so I like that question because it's tangible. They know what kind of car they would love to have one day, and what are they doing in order to get there?
Yeah.
And that's always going to change, right? So it's like you get, all right, I got the car I wanted now. Well, do I really want to go fancy, or I'm okay with it where I'm at? But then it goes back to this thing of like, what kind of car do you want to drive in front of your staff?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable pulling in a Maserati? I would never be comfortable with that because it's a gray area being like, oh man, why can't I get $2 more an hour? You're driving a Maserati. I'm like, because I've been doing this for 25 years, every day, all day. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but I do like to start the conversations early in their career of like, what kind of car do they want to drive?
The way that you run your business, like you said, you're the CEO, your wife is CFO, your brother's COO, correct? What sort of business principles do you look from the outside that you've brought into how you structure meetings and things like that now? How do you organize differently that a chef could learn from that might only see things from a chef's perspective?
Great question. It's always an evolution, right? I mean, it's like every year, every week, every month, it's something different. I mean, for a long time, it was just the three of us, and we were like, we need a director of operations, right? So then we hire a director of operations. All right, now we need a director of culinary operations. So we, created those two positions as we were scaling and growing. Then as we were continuing to grow, we're like, well, they need help too. So then they got promoted to vice president of operations, vice president of culinary operations, and then we added another layer of directors as well. So we have this corporate structure at the top. Then we realize, are we efficient? Do we know what we're talking about? Like, it's one thing just to go in and grunt things out in our industry, because I think you can get away with a lot in the culinary world as chefs and restaurant managers of just going and grinding it out, right? But goes back to like, is that how you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years? And like, where's the balance of I need to step away? And I just know that the more I stepped away from the kitchens, probably the more successful my chefs got, because maybe they didn't feel the pressure, or they, for whatever reason, I didn't want to like sit there and like overanalyze it. But what we use, there's a book called Traction by a guy named Gino Wickman that somebody introduced to me. I actually hired a CEO coach about a year ago. I was like, hey, listen, if I'm going to really run what I think I'm about to run, which is a 500 person employee company, I want to know where my weaknesses are. And it was the wildest interview I've ever had with somebody ever. He cold called me, actually. He's like, hey, I want to have lunch with you. I'm like, all right. I had seen his name around, so I knew kind of more or less what he did. And I was like, I'm always interested in meeting new cool people, whatever. And I sat down across from the table, and that guy just absolutely just darted me for 2 hours straight, just like pew, pew, missiles, just. And it was very refreshing because I have never had anybody be like, who cares about that? Like, why do you do that? Well, why do you do that? And I don't understand what do you mean you do that? And I'm like, I was like, God dang, man, like, I just met you, dude. But I walked away from it being like, oh my God, that was probably the most refreshing, needed conversation I could remember having as a real adult entrepreneur. And so he's like, oh man, I do this thing. It's this leadership classes. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, man. So I went to one. It was a group setting. Wasn't for me, right? A bunch of 10 other entrepreneurs in the room sharing stories. It was great. I got a lot out of it. But that's just not how I learn, right? And I was like, listen, I'm not really interested in the group setting, but I'd be happy to do one-on-ones. So anyways, he turned me on this book called Traction, which is really about just cutting all the BS out of management and being about setting clear direction, clear organizational charts. Like, we didn't have an org chart. I didn't think we needed one, right? And we spent 3 weeks just creating our org chart. Like, that's how long it took for me, my wife, and my brother, who really at the end of the day are the org chart. But when we have 40 salaried managers, we're like, how does this puzzle work? And so that way, that gave them a clear sense of like, oh, when I have a problem, I go to this person. This is my supervisor, because everybody organically got promoted over the years. I would say out of the 40 plus managers we have, at least 32 of them came from within our own group, our own restaurant group. So they knew our brand, they knew our mission, they knew our culture. But as we're growing, we know like, hey, okay, we got to fix that. So we do these meetings in this book. They're called L10s, level 10s. They're at the same time every week, no exceptions. They start at 9 o'clock, well, whatever time arbitrarily, but ours are 9 to 10:30. It starts at 9 o'clock on the dot, doesn't matter if you're late or whatever, and it ends promptly at 10:30. And I mean, like, close the door, shut up, we're out of here. And they've been incredibly powerful for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives us clarity coming out of them of like what we're going to work on and how we're going to do it. we do we use part of that's called the parking lot. So what we do is we took dry erase boards and literally everybody in the room for 30 minutes, like, what's fucked up in this business? What is wrong? Where are we failing? And you put it all up there, right? Boom, 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 boom. So now everybody's sitting at a table going, yeah, we got major problems here. Like, we need to fix this and that. We need to fix. All right, now which one are we going to attack today? And it's about clear decisions. The problem in our industry, so many times we want to debate it. We want to, and listen, I was the worst at that. And it's quote unquote the CEO. I'd be like, well, let's talk to this chef and see what they think. Well, because you want this level of inclusion of people's opinions. And what we realize is and so we kind of split them up into two different meetings now, which I'll try to get there by connecting these dots. These meetings are for the directors to make snap decisions. We're not sitting here fucking debating anything. Decisions have to be made. How do we fix this, right? And then we do what's called issue processing. So we take this parking lot. The metaphor of the parking lot is like your car is still in the parking lot, right? You can always go back and get your car from the parking lot, but we're going to take this out and we're going to address this thing right now. So the very first one we did was payroll, right? My wife was like, payroll's fucked up. I'm sick of doing this shit. We're always having to go back. People are forgetting out how to clock out, whatever, So then it takes that extra 30 minutes to go look at your labor report to say, oh, we had 5 people not clock out. Well, why didn't the manager check it at the end of the night? It's like, well, they didn't. So how do we fix it? So this issue processing, we take and we say, all right, labor's a problem. The first issue we're having is people aren't clocking out. So every night our management team has an email that they have to send everybody. Your end of night recap, pretty normal in the industry. Like, here's sales, here's labor percentage, here was our VIP guests, here was any issues we had, da 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 da. I said, well, they all fill that out every night and they send it over. Put a box on there that says all employees are clocked out. So now every night when they're doing the email, they're forced to sign their name to a little box that says all employees are clocked out. Overnight, we solved a problem that we hadn't talked about for 25 years in the past. But in one meeting with one little thing and one immediate implementation, it was fixed. And it's just one little thing. And so then you go back up to your parking lot and we're like, are we all good with the labor issue being solved? Yep, mark it off. All right, what's next? All right, it's whatever. I mean, there's 50 things on our parking lot, right? But what it does is, it hyper-focuses what your problems are, and you should be able to get through 3 to 5 of these issue processes in a meeting because you're not there to debate it. We're respectful, your opinion matters, but when the decision is made, the decision is made.
I love that. One of the biggest challenges that I have, socially, and working with people, is I just like to get shit done. Let's fix it. Let's fix it permanently. So let's not fix it for today. Let's fix it forever.
Right.
If that means that we're going to spend an hour talking about it until we find the right solution, that's going to save us 50 hours in the future. And I don't know, I get frustrated because I don't think a lot of people think like me.
Yeah.
I want to fix the problem permanently. I don't want to be dealing with the same repetitive problems over and over and over again. And I prioritize speed. I think that's something that I respect a lot when I'm hiring managers or when I'm working with other people. It's like, I respect speed. I expect, get it done, fix it permanently, get it done fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect because as long as we're willing to fix it again, if it needs to be fixed again until it's right. But to just sit there and complain about the issue
That's the thing that drives me crazy.
over and over.
The bitching of employees is like the thing that I don't allow it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will not. I'm like, if you have something to say about somebody that works underneath you and you're not happy with them, don't fucking do it around me, because you need to go address it with them immediately. And that is the hard part. It's every young chef's biggest problem is having that confidence to go have the hard conversation, right? To be like, hey man, I gotta hold you accountable to this, this, and this. And then the other thing that we do in this meeting is that they're called the rocks, which basically is like, you're basically, the way we do it is 2 weekly, 1 monthly, 1 quarterly rock. And it's something that you are telling the group that you're going to own. And you are owning it by you are going to fix it and get it done by the 2 every week, one by the end of that month and 1 by the end of the quarter. The one at the end of the quarter should be a big fucking project. The one at the month should be a pretty good project. The 2 weekly ones are like, hey, I'm going to take care of the linen bags not being in the right spot for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to own that. So then the next week we come back, we go, all right, let's go through our rocks. All right, chef, did you get the linen bag thing situated? Yeah, got it done. Or no, I didn't, but it'll be done by Friday. And by doing it in a group setting, you get that tribe mentality of being like, oh, we're all being held accountable here by each other. And it's a positive thing. And nobody feels, and we don't, like if you say, I'm not done with it, there is no discussion. It's like, okay, moving on to the next person. Done, not done, done, not done. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Do a recap at the end of the thing, send it out. All right, guys, here's our recaps. Blah, 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 blah.
And the business is constantly moving forward.
Absolutely.
It's improving, and it's not stagnant. I love that. I love that approach. One of the frustrations I have is that, and I say this often, it's like the person who could find one solution is sometimes more valuable than the person who could complain about or find 10 problems.
Right.
Because like, hey, we notice those problems too. We're dealing with them.
Right.
But the one person who finds a solution really brings value. But I think a lot of times junior managers or young cooks, they think that the real value is in complaining and finding the problems. Like, no, that's not where the value is. The value is in the solution.
Right.
And when you could figure that part out, that's when your career really starts taking off.
And that's like, I'm probably definitely like a cliche motto guy. It's like, I have little catchphrases. And like I said earlier, like it's like I'm not in the problem business. I'm in the solution business. So like, don't even tell me your problem without being like, chef, here's how I think we should fix it. Or hey, chef, I fixed it.
Yes.
Great, awesome, man. High five. Good job.
By the way, I'm like watching a walking chef fortune cookie. Follow Chef's PSA. It's like every day I have to come up with some fortune cookie thing to say.
I like that. I like that metaphor.
Yeah. I'm like a fortune cookie for chefs. But before we wrap up, as we're getting close to time, I like to ask chefs some particular chef questions. So, if you have a Mount Rushmore of chefs out there, for you, who are the 4 chefs that deserve to be on Mount Rushmore?
Wow. Daniel Ballou, for sure, for me. I would say Rick Bayless. I would say Thomas Keller. And I would say it's always the last one that gets you. Mm-hmm. Who's somebody that I would say somebody like Nobu, somebody that took an entire genre of food and made it approachable and from generations made people talk about a restaurant group.
Yeah. If in your kitchen, are you a green tape, blue tape, different?
I had a chef of mine that came back, and was obsessed with the blue tape thing. I don't care. Now, if you're asking me, well, which color do I prefer? I would take green tape over blue tape. Yeah. But I don't, I'm into a new thing called Prep Wizard. Uh-huh. It's the greatest tool out there, guys. Look into it. It's awesome. It's a little app on your phone, and it has a little printer machine, and you just say, I just prepped these 3 things, and you go beep, bop, bop, and it spits out the labels. Health departments love it, and it's actually super affordable. And it's not a paid sponsorship, but it's something that we were like, oh my God, this is amazing, and it makes our lives a lot easier.
Prep Wizard.
Prep Wizard.
Yeah. What salt is your preference? Is it Diamond Crystal? Is it Morton's?
I will only cook with Morton's, period. And then
why is that? That's a hot take, chef.
I cannot stand Diamond kosher salt. I'm actually I will get trash. It's just something about the granules that I prefer.
They're too fine.
Sometimes it's a little too powdery. Sometimes it can be a little too powdery.
Yep.
Where I feel like Morton's has got that perfect little grit and grain.
It's like they're perfectly cut, each crystal, right? What is your go-to finishing acid? Is it? And I'm sure there's nuance depending on the dish. But if you had a general go-to finishing acid when you're cooking, what do you go to?
It's got I would say blood orange vinegar, red wine vinegar, one of those 2.
Yeah. And then last question: is there something that you do in your kitchen that can impact flavor that a lot of people don't do? And you said, hey, here's a pro tip for you guys. Yeah. Start doing this and your food's going to start tasting better.
From a home cook, I would say MSG.
Yeah.
I don't use MSG in the
By
restaurant.
the way, no home cooks listen to this. They're banned.
Okay.
This is for chefs. Come on.
From a chef's perspective, I would say it really is just understanding the power of vinegar in cooking. It should be in 80% of the things that you're cooking as some sort of nuance that'll help kind of brighten that flavor up and bring it to the forefront.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you? Where can people find you to come eat?
Yeah.
There's a lot of places. Where can people find you on social media?
Social media is at Chef Jason Dady, and then we have a cool website, jasondady.com. Mm-hmm. So
And they'll tell you all the restaurants where they could go to.
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything from the north side of San Antonio to Bernie to down on the Riverwalk. We're a little bit everywhere.
Awesome. Well, Chef, thanks for being here.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chefs PSA, go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No André in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction. Stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.